to get started in just a minute, okay? Hey there. How you doing this evening? So guys, I'm going to get started in just a minute, okay? Let's give maybe a few more people a chance to get on live. Hey girl. How you doing? Hey girl. Glad you guys could tune in. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with everyone because I really feel like this is going to kind of shed some light on what's going on. We ain't gotta wait. Let's get it popping. That's the Leo talking. I know Leo season is rapidly approaching because I know the lions and the lionesses, y'all ready. I already feel that energy. I got a little bit of lioness left in me too. I try to hide it, but it's still there every now and then. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. I'm going to try to record this video so that I can try to post it on my YouTube channel and make it available for my Instagram subscribers also. Hopefully, you know, I know it's Mercury retrograde and a lot of stuff going on with technology, but hopefully everything will be smooth sailing. If not, I'll just try to record it again at another time. So I'm going to be talking about what happened the other night. So I made a post on my personal Facebook and some groups that I'm in. I had personal conversations with people, just a wide range of people. Thank you, girl. Just a wide range of different people, and everybody was just pretty much like, for the most part, I couldn't sleep last night or the nights leading up to the 8th and the 9th, or I don't know what's going on, but I felt like I was just losing it. I had to get some crystals, light some candles, incense or something, because I feel like I was just losing my mind. And I was like, you know what, let me just really process this from an astrology standpoint. So many of us are aware that we already had an eclipse. We had a solar eclipse that was visible from South America on July 2nd. So anytime we have eclipse energy, it's always going to be intense, just very vivid dreams. And those of you that are aware that you astral project or astral travel, those experiences happen more. Synchronicities, things from the past just kind of popping up, like, why am I thinking about this that happened like 50 million years ago? Past life experiences, having dreams about things like that. So eclipses are typically very energy packed, so to speak. I know that they are for me, just as an intuitive. Like sometimes I just have to like ground my energy or stay close to some water, because if not, like I'll be flipping out on people, sounding very weird, because nobody for the most part is gonna be knowing what I'm talking about. Like, what is she talking about? Is she crazy? But anyway, so I'm going to just kind of get right into it, and I'm going to be explaining some astrological terms that astrologers use, and I'm going to try my best to break everything down. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me, and if it's something that I need to kind of go more in detail about, or if it's something I need to like chew on for a minute, I'm going to let you know, hey, I'm going to get back to you. I'll send you a DM or something, but I definitely want to make sure that I address your questions. So Before we get really into this stuff, I want to kind of define some terms so that as I'm speaking, you guys will have a little bit of knowledge about what I'm talking about, and I won't just be talking just all this astrology stuff. So I'm going to be talking about north node, south node, and angles between planets. So those are going to be some of the main things that I will be addressing as far as terms. So when I speak of the north node, right now the north node of the moon is facing toward Cancer, the sign Cancer, which is a water sign, one of the mother archetypes. So Cancer is very emotional, it's ruled by the moon. When you think of Cancers, you think of emotional people because they're very much in tune with their emotions and letting it flow. They don't mind just crying, which could be a good thing. Everything in balance, but could be a good thing. But Cancer is definitely associated with that particular energy. And then if there's a north node, then there must be a south node. So the south node is in Capricorn, which is the sea goat ruled by Capricorn, an earth energy. Capricorns are thought to be kind of cold and unemotional, which is really not true, but we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. So when you're talking about the north node in astrology, you're talking about the future, moving forward, the things that you're supposed to be learning in your journey at this time. So right now we're supposed to be moving toward the energy of Cancer collectively, and we're supposed to be releasing some of the traits of Capricorn. So oftentimes with the nodes of the moon, it tells us a lot about karmic astrology. So your karma of your past life, your immediate past life, and your future life if you reincarnate again. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit about that, that's what I mean when I say the nodes. Typically a lot of karma, past life karma with the south node also. And I'll also be talking about angles between planets. So anytime you have more than one planet that you're considering, you have to look at the angles between them to kind of gauge how good the relationship or good the energy is between planets. Because in mythology, they attributed names and characteristics of different gods to go along with these planetary energies, and though they may not be real people, so to speak, they're real energies that affect us. We are all the signs, just in different mixtures and different cocktails. And so that's why each person has different things to work on in their spiritual growth, is because of the angles between the planets and how well certain energies between planets get along and certain ones don't. So I'll specifically be talking about squares and oppositions. So a square is a 90-degree angle between two or more planets. A 90-degree angle is not comfortable. It's kind of like, we ain't really cool like that. You know, I can kind of deal with you a little bit, but we're not seeing eye to eye. And I'll also be talking about oppositions. So when you look at an opposition, you're talking about 180-degree angle between two or more planets. So one planet on this side, another planet on this side. So this is 180 degrees, like you're facing an opponent, an opposition. And a square is a 90-degree angle, which is not exactly comfortable either. So opposition can be comfortable depending if both sides can see themselves in each other. Say, okay, we're opposites, but I can still see some of my reflection in you, so therefore I understand you in a way. Like, we don't, all the way mesh because we're not exactly alike, but we're enough alike for me to see myself to be able to continue with the relationship. So can be favorable or unfavorable depending on the viewpoint. Okay, so now that we have that, does anyone have any questions before I proceed forward? Y'all don't be shy. If you got a question or I need to rephrase something, just let me know, or just tell me, go ahead, or I got it. Either way, I'm good. They said no. Okay, so just think about just those two angles. So a 90-degree angle, kind of like a square, L7 square, and an opposition being like two sides, like an opponent, like you're fighting somebody. And it's basically like you're fighting your shadow self, so to speak. Somebody that's like the opposite of you. Those are oppositions. All right. Thanks for the lesson. I think I have a good foundation. Great. Okay, so let's go. So planets, when they're in harmony or disharmony, so speaking of good or not optimal angles between them, can cause us on Earth to experience symptoms that are related to the energy of that particular planet being in distress. So if you think about it, it's basically like you going out with a group of people and you don't quite get along with somebody in that group, and somebody that's off on, let's say you're on a different planet and you're interacting with people, and then people on Earth are feeling your energy not being comfortable with this person. And so they're like, I don't know, I feel kind of weird today. It's because of a particular planet not being all the way comfortable with an energy that's kind of floating up around in the cosmos. So as I mentioned earlier, we have all the signs in our charts, even though most people are only familiar with their sun sign. So there are some people, that are getting more into astrology. I used to be a skeptic of astrology myself and was like, when I was in my Christian days, I was like, there is no way you're going to tell me everybody born in the same month is alike. And to some degree that's true, to some degree that's false. And the more that I started learning about astrology, the more that I started seeing that it's super complicated. It's simple yet complicated when you really think about how everything is put together. So we have all the signs in our chart, even though most people are only familiar with their sun signs. Some people do know their moon signs, which is a game changer. And planets rule particular houses in your chart. So there's 12 houses that change every 2 hours. And I won't really get into all of that later. Like if you guys have any questions, I do one-on-one sessions, and I'll also be uploading some instructional videos with astrology, so that those of you that are really interested in getting deeper into the science can really get all those nuggets and kind of rewind, take notes, and at your own pace. So planets rule different houses. There's 12 houses, there's 12 zodiac signs, and each planet is kind of associated with a different house. And the planets are also associated and rule different organs and body parts. So, hey cuz, how are you doing? Okay, so planets rule different houses as well as organs and body parts, as well as the chakras. So those of you that may not know what chakras are, I recommend just kind of like, okay, I can't hear anything. I gotta reset and come back. Can everybody else hear me? I just want to make sure that it's not a glitch on my side. So somebody just like raise your hand or something if you can still hear me, or let me know that you can't. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. You can hear. Okay, so if you don't know what chakras are, I really don't want to get into too much of the chakras for this particular video, but they're energy vortexes within our body that are attributed to different sound frequencies, different crystals, like you see me wearing black tourmaline, moldavite, black tourmaline. Like each one of these crystals goes with a different chakra. So earth energies and just helping you raise your vibration. So planets rule different chakras. So when you put all this together, planets rule different houses in your chart. Planets don't always get along. And also planets rule chakras in your body. Okay, does everybody have that part so far? We all good? Getting a good understanding, good foundation? It's about to get good. Okay, great. So now that we kind of have that foundation as to some of the basics of astrology, I can really get into what was going on July 8th, the night of July 8th into the early AM hours of July 9th. Okay, so on July 8th, Saturn began shifting into opposition with the sun. So at approximately 8:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'm located, Saturn started to rise, and it started to move into opposition with the sun. So that means that you got the sun on one side that had just set in the west, and Saturn was rising in the east, and here they are, opponents. They're kind of like at a standoff on a square. And furthermore, Saturn rules Capricorn and the moon rules Cancer. So Cancer is in the sun. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. The sun was in the sign of Cancer, which we've covered is the north node. So where we're going as a society, and Saturn was rising in the south node, the things that we're leaving behind karmically, that we're shedding and we're releasing, that the universe, our higher selves, are now asking us to release. So these two energies are at an opposition. They're at a standoff. But guess what was in the middle? The Earth. So I did a little diagram. Hopefully you guys can see. This is not my best work per se, but you have the sun here, and you have Saturn here, and in the middle you have the Earth. Does this remind you guys of anything that just happened on July 2nd? This is a similar concept of what happened with the eclipse. So the moon's orbit went down into the ecliptic, which the ecliptic is the plane that all the planets orbit the sun around. So the moon its orbit kind of shifted down into the ecliptic, and so then it eclipsed the sun. I'm not really going to talk too much about that today, but essentially that's what the Earth was doing at this time. The Earth was eclipsing the sun from being able to see Saturn, and the Earth was also eclipsing the sun. Wait, sorry, I said that backwards. The Earth was eclipsing Saturn from seeing the sun, and eclipsing the sun from being able to see Saturn. So if you were standing on Saturn, standing on one of the rings or standing on Saturn, potentially you couldn't see the sun because the Earth was in the way, blocking out its energy from you. If you were standing on the sun looking towards Saturn, you couldn't see Saturn because the Earth was in the way. So let's come back to that in just a second. While this was also happening, the moon was also growing or waxing into first quarter. So when the moon started rising in the sky, it was at 43% illumination. So it's going towards being a square. So like when it looks like an orange shape, like the orange shape, that's when it's first quarter, and it's 90-degree angle between the sun and the Earth. Once again, 90-degree square is not comfortable. So the moon, which represents an archetype of the mother, was at a bad angle, or I'm not going to say a bad angle, an uncomfortable angle from the sun, as well as an uncomfortable angle from Saturn. And I'm going to throw another element into the mix. We have a major asteroid called Chiron. Chiron was also at a squared angle from both the sun and Saturn. So while the moon was on this side in Libra, I'll show the diagram again. which is probably, yeah, it's gonna look backwards to you guys. But okay, so we already talked about the North Node Cancer and the South Node Capricorn, and how the Earth was eclipsing the Sun and Saturn. So now we're going to be talking about what was going on this plane. You have Libra on this side of the axis, and you have Aries on this side of the axis. And once again, Earth was in the middle, eclipsing the Moon and Chiron. And I know many of you guys are probably like, what the heck is Chiron? I've never heard of that before. Just to give you a brief explanation of what Chiron is, Chiron in Greek mythology was the wounded healer. So he was a centaur. Sorry about that, you guys. I had a talk with her before the video, and clearly she wants to let everyone know that she's here. And yeah, she wants to say hi. But Ivy. Okay. Chiron in Greek mythology was called the wounded healer. He was a centaur, so he was like half human, half horse, kind of like Sagittarius story. And so during a battle, he was shot with an arrow that had a hydra's blood on it. So a hydra was another, hey puppy. So a hydra was another type of mythological creature, and the blood of that hydra was toxic to Chiron. Chiron, he did not die because he was immortal. So he did not die from the hydra's blood being basically seeping into his body. However, his body could not get rid of the poison. So he searched the world high and low, and he met with all of these gurus that were just skilled and knowledgeable about how to heal other people. So Chiron searched the world, and he became an expert on healing people. But he had a thorn in his flesh. He couldn't heal himself. So I'll get into this in a second also, but Chiron itself in our chart, the asteroid, represents a core wound within our being. It's kind of like something karmic, maybe in your last lifetime, if you believe in reincarnation, something that you died. It was like maybe a heaviness that you were carrying when you died, and so it's like when you came into this reincarnation, it's still there. You don't necessarily remember the root of why it's there or why this particular area of your life is always so difficult, but it's there. And so as a society, Chiron represents society's core wound. And as I said, I'll mention that, go into a little bit more in a minute. So we've covered, go back to the chart. The sun and the earth and Saturn basically being in eclipse mode. And to add another little nugget here, which we'll get into this too, is here's Pluto. Pluto is also in the South Node, which is Capricorn. So all of this is being eclipsed on the Cancer-Capricorn axis. And then on the other axis, the Libra-Aries axis, Chiron, the Moon and Chiron are being eclipsed by the Earth. The Earth is eclipsing their energies from being able to interact with each other or see each other clearly, so to speak. So I'm going to break down a little bit about what each of these planets and celestial bodies really mean from an astrology standpoint. So the sun is your ego personality. It is the light that you shine to others. It is what people see when you walk into a room. They're like, okay, she's cool. She's down to earth. Okay, I got it. And the sun also rules your heart chakra. So the color green, your heart chakra, how you love and how you give love and how you receive love. So the moon represents your third eye chakra. So your what you're able to see spiritually. So if you close both of your eyes, what your spiritual eye sees, known in like comedic sciences as like your pineal gland, the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra, your pineal gland, your third eye. Saturn, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention something about the moon. So the moon is ruled by Cancer. So it's ruled by Cancer. The moon is your hidden self. So this is your emotional self. This is the version of you that's like cloaked in darkness, that's mysterious. I'll give you guys an example. I don't mind being a little bit vulnerable. So, for example, I'm a Sun Capricorn and a Moon Aries, right? So that means that typically when people meet me, they see the Capricorn side and they're like, oh, she's cool, she's down to earth, okay, you know, she's not that emotional, but whatever, we can deal with her. And then if someone triggers me and I have to go into my basic instincts and into like my hidden emotions, my internal environment, somebody's going to see an Aries. They're going to be like, I'm like, I want my way, do it my way now. So that just kind of gives you an idea of like the sun versus the moon astrology, just on the very surface level. Saturn represents, oh, sorry, I forgot something else again. So the sun also is a masculine energy. It is one of the archetypes of the father. So basically like your dad would be your son. The moon is an archetype of the mother. So a type of the mother. Sun is a masculine energy. The moon is a feminine energy. Saturn is also somewhat of an archetype of the mother. Even though if you look in Greek mythology, you'll see Saturn being called Kronos or Father Time, Lord of the Rings, all of those different things like the hexagon, the black cube, all of that deals with Saturn's energy. And so sometimes Saturn is looked at in a masculine sense, but in the terms of like Western astrology, Saturn is kind of like the Baphomet character. So a lot of people, when someone says Baphomet, oh my gosh, she's talking about Satan. Baphomet basically is like a horned goat human creature that is half masculine and half feminine. So an androgynous type being that represents the union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine as a parent. So Saturn is a feminine energy. Technically it is earth. So Cancer is water, which is more flowing, emotions flowing, and Saturn is grounded, earth, Capricorn. Sun is fire. Pluto represents the god of the underworld. So Hades, Pluto is ruled by, or Pluto is one of the rulers of Scorpio. So typically like the deep, dark side of the zodiac, you're going to be looking at Pluto's energy. And I already kind of talked about Chiron a little bit. Chiron being the wounded healer. Sorry, one thing I forgot to mention about Saturn. This is very important. Saturn rules the root chakra. Your root chakra is what keeps you connected to Earth. So we are multidimensional beings. We exist in many different dimensions at once. So there's this version of me that you see. There's the past life version of me who's a spirit guy, the life before that, whatever. There's me that's intangible. There's me in the ethers. There's a lot of different levels of my existence. But my root chakra, which is represented by the color red and ruled by Capricorn, keeps me grounded in this physical body. It's like it kind of keeps me tethered a little bit. So that's why when the root chakra is out of balance, all types of fears dealing with basic survival come up. Fear and anxiety about paying bills and how am I going to eat food, fight or flight type reactions, basically how to stay alive. And a lot of people think that Capricorns are in love with money, which isn't exactly true. I can say as a Sun Capricorn with somewhat dominant Capricorn energy in my chart, I'm not in love with money, but I'm in love with stability. And so when that root chakra is out of balance, you don't feel stable, you don't feel safe, you don't feel protected. You feel like something is intrinsically off. Like, I gotta protect myself. I gotta save myself. Nobody's gonna do it if I don't save me. So I mentioned Pluto and I mentioned Chiron. Okay, so I'm gonna get into the axes, gotta say that correctly, the axes for a minute, and then we're gonna just try to put everything together so that you guys can kind of see the full picture now that we've kind of gone through a lot of the details. So on this chart where you see Libra and Aries, and I'll actually say this, so the eclipse action of everything that we're seeing here is basically representative of the 4 seasons also. So these are all cardinal signs that represent the beginning of a new season. Oh, boom, there's a word right there. So you have Cancer, which marks the beginning of summer. You have Aries, which marks the beginning of spring. You have Capricorn, which marks the beginning of winter. And you have Libra, that marks the beginning of autumn or fall. Depending on what hemisphere you're in also. But we won't get into that either. So these different axes represent the different seasons as well. So the Aries and Libra axis basically is dealing with focus on self and how self projects itself into the physical world around it. So a lot of people think the Aries are selfish, which could be true if they're not in balance, but the focus is on themselves. How do I, hey there, so like, how do I fit into my world around me? I'm concerned, it's like a childlike innocence. I'm concerned with how I am being received, in a sense, by how I project myself into the world. Even though, for the most part, Aries overall doesn't care how they receive. It's kind of like a take it or leave it type energy. And on the other side, you have Libra. Libra is more so, how do I readjust myself based on how other people are reacting to how I project myself into the world. So Aries is more of the I energy, I, self, focus on myself. Libra is the we, focus on how can I adjust myself to make a we work. So it's dealing with like the relationship to self and the relationship to others. So that's what we're dealing with the energy of the moon and Chiron being eclipsed by Earth, is that axis of relation to self and relation to others. And the Cancer Capricorn axis is more of a parent-child relationship. So on one side of the axis you have Cancer, which is water, very nurturing, sometimes over nurturing energy, and when out of balance goes into a state of dependency. So just kind of in a sense brooding over a child, like, let me do everything for you, let me tend to all your needs. And Capricorn on the other end is more of the mixture of the mom and the father together, just kind of like, okay, I love you, but you need to be able to do that yourself. So you fell, pick yourself up. You probably shouldn't bike down that hill when I told you not to. So that Saturn influence is more of rigid in rules and providing discipline. So something I also wanted to mention as I get into this, when I say masculine or feminine, when I say masculine does not equal male, and feminine does not equal woman. So we are, like, every human being in existence is a mixture of feminine and masculine energy. We all have different mixtures of feminine and masculine energy. So what I was gathering from this eclipse energy, because we're definitely in eclipse season. We had one on the 2nd, a solar eclipse on the 2nd. We're about to have a lunar eclipse on the 16th, and on the night of the 8th of this month, you had the Earth eclipsing the Sun and Saturn and Pluto, and then the Earth eclipsing the Moon and Chiron from each other on a totally different axis. So I will say this also. Cancer and Capricorn are two sides of the same coin. Cancer would not exist without Capricorn, nor would Capricorn exist without Cancer. Libra and Aries are two sides of the same coin. Libra would not exist without Aries, nor would Aries exist without Libra. So it's important to understand that with these astrology nodes, so to speak, we shift nodes about every 2 or so years. Just kind of depends, but around every 2 or so years, something like that. And it kind of shifts our focus as to like what we're supposed to be moving towards and what we're supposed to be releasing. But at all times, we must keep in mind that we have to stay in balance. And that was what I was getting from the energy of this eclipse type energy that Earth was doing. Earth was kind of casting shadows from different sides, and the sun couldn't see Saturn, and Chiron couldn't see the moon couldn't see Chiron, vice versa, all of that. But the general message is for us to incorporate two sides of the same coin, to see both sides of it. So right now, I'll talk about Chiron a little bit more. Chiron is in Aries. The wounded healer is in the sign of Aries. Aries is potentially the most masculine sign in the zodiac. So what does this mean in layman terms? Chiron, the wounded healer, being in Aries means that the masculine, the divine masculine, has to heal. The north node of the moon is in Cancer, so we're moving towards the nurturing, divine feminine, divine mother energy. But in order for us to realign our physical and spiritual and emotional divine feminine and divine masculine, we have to come back in a sense of union. So what does that mean? That means that the wounded warrior has got to heal. It's time. For 2,000 or so years, the patriarchy has been waging wars and destroying this planet and taking advantage of the feminine. You look at the rise of religion, the Western religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and what do they typically have in common? They've completely, or for the most part, taken the mother out of the story. So you guys, if you know me personally or have seen me, I wear my ankhs, and I wear my ankhs proudly. Matter of fact, if you look at my spiritual name, Empress Sankofa. Sankofa is a Adinkra symbol, meaning go back and get it to learn from the past. But my Sankofa has ankh in it. So me learning from the past and incorporating that into helping people evolve into their best selves means to realign the divine masculine with the divine feminine for that ankh energy to produce offspring. You can't produce offspring with 2 males. You cannot produce offspring with 2 females. There has to be the principles of gender. This is universal law. So hopefully nobody's taking offense to this, but if you are, this is universal law. Gender exists on all planes and all dimensions, not necessarily in the sexual sense, but there are masculine and feminine energies. Each person is a blend of masculine and feminine energies. So it makes perfect sense to me why the moon and Chiron were being eclipsed by the earth, because now it's time for the nurturing mother to see things from the perspective of the wounded masculine. It's time for the wounded masculine to look within himself to rediscover the divine feminine. I am overall divine feminine energy, but I also have divine masculine energy. Just like a divine masculine male is going to have divine masculine energy as well as divine feminine energy. Okay, so what did I want to tell you guys next after that? So, okay, so I mentioned Chiron, I mentioned the moon. So then we have the sun and we have Saturn. So you're looking at two, as I mentioned earlier, you're looking at two different nodes. You're looking at Cancer and you're looking at Capricorn. So it's time for us to move into that nurturing sense, to nurture the damaged divine masculine within ourselves. This is not a message for people to go out and, try to look for some, if you're a female, look for some male to, try to like nurture and heal. No. That's not what I'm saying. Don't damage yourself trying to fix somebody else. Been there, done that. What I'm saying is to honor the divine masculine within yourself. To look within yourself and to nurture that wounded warrior that is within you. And guess what happens when the universe is trying to get our attention and when energy starts shifting in the cosmos? Things start popping up. Emotions and feelings start popping up. And I've heard people talk about things that they were feeling on the night of the 8th, when they woke up on the 9th, saying there were people that said that, they were feeling fear, feeling anxiety, feeling like something was not sitting right within them, just like feeling like something is wrong, something bad is about to happen, just all these different emotions people were expressing to me that they were feeling. And I was like, you know what? Wow. It's like the universe is really not playing any games with us. If we're going to move forward into a higher state of consciousness, we have got to transcend duality. We have to stop seeing two of everything and see them as two sides of one. So looking at Cancer and Capricorn as one, looking at Aries and Libra as one, just two sides of the same energy. And so as people were waking up and just having these weird sensations and weird dreams, guess what the common root of what was being felt was? Fear. Afraid of something. I don't even know what I'm fearing. I don't know what I'm afraid of. I don't know what this feeling is that's just kind of come over me. People were feeling fear. And once again, I'll be vulnerable with myself. I woke up and I was actually in the middle of an astral projection. I knew exactly where I was, what I was doing, and I woke up and I was just having these intense, just like feelings of fear and just like all this different stuff. And I was like, okay, calm down. I guess the spiritual coach in me was just like, hold on, chick, before you start running off. I know that you're Capricorn and you're trying to tap into your Cancer energy or whatever and be balanced, but hold on a minute before you go crazy. Really assess what you're feeling right now. And so there's this exercise that I like to do. Those of you that have read my book, Tired of Being Tied, The Spiritual Science of Breaking Soul Ties, this is one of the exercises in my book. But I talk about the why exercise. So if you're feeling some emotion, ask yourself why you're feeling that. Okay, so I feel scared. Why? As soon as you get an answer, ask why again. As soon as you get that answer, ask why again. And keep asking and keep asking and keep asking yourself the question why until you get to the root of what the fear is. Because we're not designed to be afraid of anything. We are gods having a physical experience. Imagine like one of the Orishas. For those of you that follow the Orishas, or say if you follow Greek mythology, imagine one of the Greek gods. If you follow like the Indian or the Vedic side of things, imagine Kali or someone feeling fear. And here we are, gods in the physical, and we're afraid of things. So we have to get to the root of what that fear is, and we got to deal with it. And for myself, I found myself having these strong emotions of things dealing with my divine masculine twin flame and my dad. My father's been deceased for, this is 19 years this year. And like all these feelings and emotions were coming up, and I was like, okay, get to the bottom of it. Don't go crazy. Get to the bottom of it. Okay, ask myself why again. Okay, why am I feeling this? Why am I feeling that? Why am I feeling that? And I had a light bulb moment. And you know what? As soon as I got to the root of what I was feeling, the energy lifted. And it's like I literally felt like a feeling just like kind of like lift off of me, like a heaviness just lift off of me. And I was like, wow, that's what it was. And so now that I know what it is, I have the opportunity to see things from a higher perspective outside of the duality of things, and to heal myself on a deeper level, to understand the why. And so to use that information to heal the wounded warrior within me. Because as I mentioned earlier, I'm an Aries moon. Aries and Capricorn both alike do not deal with emotions that well. If it's something emotional, I don't want to talk about it. Just don't want to talk about it, don't want to deal with it. If it's an emotional confrontation, unless it's like anger or something back in the day, you take me there, I'm going to take you there. But other than outside of anger, typically you're looking at kind of emotionally cold. And it's not that we don't have emotions, is we don't know how to process and understand our emotions. And so with that being said, I have to see things from the North Node in Cancer perspective and allow myself to be vulnerable. That's a question. Can I be vulnerable? Those of you that are familiar with pendulums and the law of rhythm, like if something swings this way to the right, it has to swing the same and opposite to the left. So everything stays in balance once again, because there's two sides of every coin. So as the pendulum starts to swing toward Cancer, toward the water flowing, intuitive, guided by the moon, nurturer, are we going to allow ourselves to be vulnerable with what we're feeling? Even if we don't know what we're feeling at the time, can we be vulnerable with ourselves to acknowledge, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I don't feel settled. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. But let me explore the why. Let me have the understanding that at all times I am safe, I am covered, and I am protected. My ancestors, be specific, my well-meaning ancestors, those that are here for my highest good, and my spirit guides are here guiding me on my journey. They're not going to let me fall by the wayside as I'm coming into myself. So I have to trust my higher self. I have to trust my spirit guides that are emanations of me also. And I have to trust my well-meaning ancestors that have been with me on this journey, and allow myself to be vulnerable at this time. Because that is the only way that the wounded warrior is going to heal. And as I mentioned, many of you guys that have personally talked to me, I was hearing a lot of fear emotions coming up. And you know what? That really goes into that warrior mindset. You know, what do you do at war? You at war with something. You at war with somebody. And you don't know what's coming next. Fear. I'm afraid now. I'm afraid for my life. I feel like I'm about to die. We got to process those emotions, and we got to heal that energy. We got to nurture ourselves along the journey, and we got to have the understanding that everything is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be Jiminy Cricket, like lickety split fast all the time. We got to allow ourselves to be patient, just like that nurturing mommy that's so in touch with her intuition and the moon. She's just so loving, and she just draws you into her bosom. She's patient with her children, right? So if this is a parent-child relationship on that Cancer Capricorn axis that was being eclipsed by the earth, we got to be patient with the divine masculine within ourselves. Before we can do anything to change the world, we got to realize that we are our own world. We are our own universe. We got to get in balance within ourselves and allow that balance within ourselves to transform the outside. There's another universal law, as above, so below. So everything that is happening in the cosmos is the same thing that is happening in your emotions. It's the same thing that is happening on an atomic level, a molecular level. It's all the same. It's just kind of like seeing things through the lens of a telescope versus a microscope, but having the understanding that it's all connected. Like there is nothing isolated, nothing. Everything is literally connected to everything. We're all connected to each other, whether we like it or not. And we're all going through these shifts. I'm delighted. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but there has been like a massive shift in consciousness just around the world. Like people are really tapping into these energies, because I'm gonna just let you guys think about this. The planets have always been doing alignments. They've always been moving and doing this and looking like it's retrograding, but it's really not retrograding. This has been going on since the foundations of the universe was put together, whenever that was. It's all been going on. Nothing has changed. It's just our perception has changed. Before, we were just grouchy or grumpy, didn't know what was going on, getting into arguments and fights and trying to stay away from people in a lower vibration. But once you're in a higher vibration and the vibration of the planet is shifting, we're feeling this. We're feeling these energies, and it feels intense sometimes, and it feels like it sucks sometimes. And just like, oh my God, like what else? I feel like I can't deal with this stuff anymore. And we're already in Mercury retrograde, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron's in retrograde. And the essence of a retrograde is not that the planet or the celestial body is moving backwards at any point in time, but your perception of it is. So when you perceive that it's moving backwards, it causes you to have to think in a different way. Something that I explain to people when I'm talking about retrogrades in my session, like one-on-one sessions or whatever, I explain how when you have a professor, and like say for example an English professor that you write a paper for, and she says, I'm taking off 2 points for every mechanical error that I find, like the spelling, grammar, whatever, I'm taking off. And she tells you to not read from left to right, top to bottom. He or she tells you to read backwards, because see, our brains don't read every syllable of every word. No, our brains anticipate what it thinks it's about to see and projects. Boom, there's another key word right there. It projects projects an energy onto what it's seeing, and you could be overlooking grammatical errors, mechanical errors. But when you read backwards, your brain doesn't logically read it. It has to like read it out of order. So therefore you catch things that you didn't catch the first time. So now with all of these retrogrades, all of the stuff going on in the cosmos, it is time for us to really dig in to not just our femininity, but for those of you that are, women, but also look at your masculine side. We have two sides of our body. We got a left side and a right side. Each one of these correlates to a masculine and a feminine side, a projecting side and a receptive side. And as I stated, masculine doesn't mean male and feminine does not mean female. We have two sides of our brain, a masculine side of our brain and a feminine side of our brain. So when we incorporate those things, imagine like somebody thinking that they have two brains. That would sound crazy to most people. Oh yeah, I got two brains. I got a masculine brain and I got a feminine brain. You're like, nah, fool, you got one brain that has two different sides to it. So that's how we have to see these energies. And the eclipse is allowing us to, even though it appears that it's blocking out the energy of something, it's allowing you to see things from a merged standpoint. So you're able to see the moon and you're able to see Chiron's viewpoint, but also see that it's two sides of the same thing. You're able to see the sun and Saturn and Pluto's standpoint, two sides of the same thing. We gotta stop, fearing ourselves. We gotta really be comfortable. And I'm talking to myself too. This process, this journey never ends. Like there's always more to learn. Healing is not like a point A to point Z straight line. No, it's like spirals. Like you keep looping around. You're like, I thought I was over this. I thought I, mastered this. And you're like, boom, nope, there's another layer. Go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. We got to stop being afraid of ourselves. We got to be patient with ourselves. It's time for us to release more of that Capricorn, rigid rules, follow my rules and my discipline. And I like rules. Well, I like making rules. I think I've kind of like shifted a little bit to where, you know, when I was younger, I used to like I was called ruly. I love rules. I love like following rules and making other people follow rules. And it's like now that I'm older and I feel like I've just kind of like evolved out of that energy, I don't follow rules. I like rules. I ain't obeying your rules. Like I can make some rules of my own. You can follow them if you want to, but I ain't obeying nobody's rules. And it's not that I'm, you know, trying to be. Well, yeah, I am rebellious a little bit. I do have some Aquarius in my chart too. So that's the rebel in me. But I'm also balancing my energy. I know how to be Cancer when I need to be, and I know how to be Capricorn when I need to be. I know how to be Aries when I need to be. I know how to be Libra when I need to be. I know how to be Gemini when I need to be. Sagittarius. I know how to be Virgo when I need to be. I know how to be Pisces when I need to be. I know how to be Aquarius when I need to be. I know how to be Leo when I need to be. And it's all about oneness, coming back together as one with ourselves. I know a lot of times in the spiritual community, there's a lot of people that talk about, oh, for the good of all, the collective consciousness, the collective, love and light, mwah, love and light. And we can't do any of that love and light, and we can't do the collective until we collectively get ourselves together, till we collectively, you know, merge this divine masculine, heal him, so that the patriarchy can stop being so left-brained and we can shift more into a balanced existence. But in order to do so, if we've been so far left with all this masculine energy and God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, and all these gods are he. Like, what happened to the mother? What happened to the divine feminine? Like, where is she? Where is the cosmic womb? The universe as we know it in nature is feminine. Where was this energy birthed from? Where was this energy birthed from? You cannot procreate without a feminine principle. That just does not make sense. At least in the universe that we live in this particular universe, it's not really possible from our understanding to take the feminine out, nor is it plausible for us to take the masculine out. We need each other, and it all starts from within. Can't do anything without doing the work within. So that is all that I have for you guys on this evening. Just all of that information. I know I said a whole mouthful. I gave you guys a general breakdown of like some highlights in astrology, enough for you to be able to understand what I was trying to articulate with the eclipse energy. Matter of fact, I'll probably be posting this video and be calling it eclipse energy because it's the same concept, and the earth is doing the eclipsing. So we're like right in the middle of it. We're able to see things from 4 different angles. The archangels, the archangels, angles. That's another message for another day. But if you guys have any questions for me, I am entertaining questions at this time, so just drop them in the comments. I'll give you guys a few minutes to think of anything that you might want to ask me, anything that you might want me to like reiterate or restate in a different way. Ivy, apologies once again. My little drama queen. She wants everybody to know she's here. I'm so glad to hear that. Yes, I definitely do like one-on-one sessions with astrology also, looking at natal charts and just kind of like how energies in particular may affect each person, because each person is going to be affected differently by different planetary alignments and things like that based on when you were born. So as I mentioned, just, kind of briefly talking about my sun and moon, this one was definitely emotional for me. This has been an emotional Mercury retrograde. I will say that because of the energies that are retrograding and the energies that are eclipsing at this time are major energies within my chart. So it's a major time for me to reassess and change things and upgrade myself. Are you able to speak on our nation's karma? Anything in the stars about the U.S.? Okay, so I'm just going to say this briefly. This is actually a post that I was going to post futuristically, but the United States of America, the Eagle, is about to enter its Pluto return. Pluto was in 27 degrees Capricorn on July 4th, 1776. So a lot of people are familiar with Saturn returns and how that's like major lessons for people to learn. Kind of like a rites of passage into adulthood. Happens the first time in your 20s, like your mid to late 20s, and then again in your 50s. So it's kind of like rites of passage. You also have Uranus return that most people don't talk about. And now the U.S. is about to have its Pluto return. Child, go get your popcorn. Pluto is the god of the underworld. Woo! Baby! All I got to say is, I want to be in physical form when all this shit, when all this stuff comes crumbling down. In whatever form and fashion the universe so sees for it to happen. I just want to have a front row. I don't know about a front row seat. I want to be somewhere watching with my popcorn. But that's all that I'll say about that for right now, and I'll get into more of that at a later time. But definitely the tides are turning in this country. Some of them are trying to right certain wrongs that they've done. Some things that may have transpired around that time that may be looping back around karmically. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All I can say is everybody just keep your frequency as high as possible and stay in contact with your ancestors and your spirit guides and be at the right place at the right time. Does anyone else have any questions about anything that I talked about tonight before I let you guys go? Well, if no one has any questions for me, I do appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight. I was so excited and nervous about just giving this information. I feel like it was so necessary because I was like, I didn't really expect to get like all the feedback that I got. Everybody was just experiencing all this stuff. At first, I thought it was just me. I was like, wow, okay. I just had a breakthrough moment. I thought it was just me. And I was like, what, just me? Okay, well, let me dig in a little bit deeper. I was like, wow, okay, so this is definitely video worthy. So if you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to send me a message on this Facebook page, Empress Sankofa, Sankhofa 1111. You can email me at Sankofa, Sankhofa 1111 at gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and DM me there if you choose to. Empress _ Sankofa, Sankofa 1111, and we will chat it up. There's so much more that I can share with you guys. Just for time's sake, I couldn't get into like all the all the deep tea and everything with astrology, because it goes layers and layers and layers deep. When you think that you can't go any deeper with astrology, it goes deeper. So you guys take care and enjoy your night, and I look forward to hearing from you, and look forward to hearing from me soon also. See you later.